Viewer contributions make local programming possible on WNIN. Become a member of WNIN with your contribution so we can continue to make this programming available. Visit WNIN.org and click on the donate button.
Legal settlements with opioid manufacturers and distributors are being dispersed to local projects that address the ongoing opioid crisis in our community. We'll hear from several of last year's recipients of those funds, including the YWCA, the Women's Hospital, and the new SWIRE program at the Vanderburgh County Jail. That's coming up next on WNIN Newsmakers. Welcome to WNIN Newsmakers. I'm Noah Alatza, Chief Communications Officer for the University of Evansville. Southwest Indiana Recovery and Empowerment, also known as SWIRE, is a brand new program designed to reduce recidivism and help former inmates struggling with addiction. Joining me now is the Southwest Indiana Recovery and Empowerment Executive Director, Catherine Byers. Catherine, thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks.
And full disclosure, I have the honor of being secretary on the board of directors for this new nonprofit. So yeah. Great to see you, familiar face. And walk our viewers at home, Catherine, through what the SWIRE program is. What does it entail? How did we get here right now? Yeah.
So SWIRE, or Southwest Indiana Recovery and Empowerment, it is a peer-led recovery organization based in the Vanderburgh County Jail. Peer-led meaning the people that work there have lived experience in recovery, and actually I think about 75% of our board also has lived experience in recovery. So it is an organization, led and run by people that have that peer lived experience. And what we do is we work with people in the Vanderburgh County Jail while they're still in custody, provide them with peer coaching services to help them come up with a plan for when they get released. And then we also help connect them with community resources to help, make that plan realized. So, yeah.
And we know that the opioid settlement funds played a big part in helping fund SWIRE. Yeah. Walk me through where that funding also perhaps could come from the state level.
Yeah. So as I say, initial funds were, yes, the opioid settlement dollars through the Vanderburgh County Sheriff's Department. We have also applied for another round of opioid settlement funds, and then we are also talking to the IRACS program, which is a state program. It's the Indiana, oh goodness, it's something about reentry services, but basically the IRACS program is already implemented, I think, in 7 different county jails in the state of Indiana, so we would be the 8th. And it helps with reentry, so that would be state money that would be coming in to help basically hire more peer coaches and do more services. So
great. And walk me through kind of how this is different perhaps than other programs that might already exist.
Yeah. I mean, we do have a lot of great recovery programs in the Evansville community and in Vanderburgh County. A lot of those programs are, like treatment centers. We have, 12-step recovery fellowships. But we don't have like a recovery community organization that is just all pathways and to help connect people with those different treatment resources and recovery resources. So that's kind of where SWIRE fills in that gap.
And Catherine, for viewers at home who might not be aware, like what is your background? How did you get here?
Yeah, so of course I have lived experience in recovery. I was a graduate of the Vanderburgh County Treatment Court program in 2018. Have spent a few months in the Vanderburgh County Jail myself, and have spent a lot of years then also in different recovery communities. So I got involved with this organization because it was something important to me to help people getting out of jail. I've been there.
And why is that so important for yourself, for the other peer counselors to have that lived experience, as the same as perhaps the inmates or other people that are in recovery?
Yeah, well, for one, I would say, because we have lived experience, because we're not law enforcement, we're not therapists, we're not people that are there to tell people what they need to do or what they should do. We're there to walk alongside them and say, hey, I've been here before. Let me show you a way out of this. And I think that really makes a difference in how people listen to, the advice and the information that we have to give them.
And I'm curious, I know we were talking off camera a couple of minutes before that it sounds like there are already some inmates that are being helped. How many, though, When the program, and I know that this nonprofit, right, it's kind of just getting off the ground. How many people, though, eventually, in a perfect world, could be assisted through the work of SWIRE, inmates-wise?
I mean, our hope is to be able to provide peer coaching services to anybody in the Vanderburgh County Jail who wants them. Anybody who identifies as somebody who, has struggles with substance use disorder or mental health. And of course, I know the jail has partnered with Southwestern to provide kind of that serious mental health, treatment services for people there. They're building a mental health and substance use wing so that, organizations like ours in Southwestern will be able to work with these people. So in a perfect world, I'd like to have 5 or 6 or 7 peer coaches on staff and be able to work with anybody in the jail who needs the help. So.
For people at home who might want to get involved, who might want to, I see questions all the time, how do we volunteer? How can we help? And I know that, right, we're a couple of months into the nonprofit in its infancy, but is there a way in which people can get involved and help out?
Absolutely. So, of course, I am going to be looking for more peer coaches, so people with lived experience in recovery, could get involved as far as getting trained and coming to work for us, but then also people without lived experience in recovery. We're getting ready to do a fundraiser drive to fill release packs for people. We want to do individualized, release packs for when people get released from the jail that'll have things like basic toiletries, weather-appropriate clothing. A lot of times people get released from jail in cold weather and they've got a tank top, so, and just to make sure then also that we can help people with like transportation resources, a cell phone if they don't have one, things like that. So. People can get involved and help donate those items or donate money to help build those release packs.
And how do they reach out to you?
So we have our website. It is swireconnect.org. And then, of course, on the website is my contact information. My email is director@swireconnect.org. So.
What is something that people might not necessarily think of when you're getting released from jail? Like, is there, you mentioned the cell phone.
Yeah.
You mentioned the winter clothes. Is there anything that might come as a shock to people, right, when you're getting out that they might not necessarily think of that you don't have access to?
I know for me, when I got out in 2018, I had been homeless before I went to jail. So I got out of jail, of course, in the clothes that I got arrested in, which were not very warm, and I got handed a bus token. And I didn't know where I was supposed to go. So a lot of times for people, just having a plan for somewhere to go, having transportation to get there, to be able to apply for jobs, people need an ID. Sometimes they don't have that. Wow. So somebody to help get them, to the BMV to get their ID so they can go apply for a job would be great.
And that's where SWIRE steps in with those resources and helps out. So to expand on that, then not just for the individuals, the inmates perhaps that would be in the program, Catherine, how would larger though, how does this overall help our community as a whole?
Oh, for sure. When we address people's substance use and mental health issues, I mean, that strengthens families, that helps people to be productive members of society, and of course that's going to help and strengthen the whole community when we don't have people constantly going back to jail for, substance use related issues. So.
Anything else you want to add? I know I'm in it, know a lot more probably than most, but what other big takeaway, your parting message?
I just think that it's really important, the big message that I've got, all over our website and all of our marketing stuff is that recovery equals connection, and that I'm a big believer in that the opposite of addiction isn't abstinence, it's connection. And when people have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, when they have, a connection to families that they love or work that they love, when they have a purpose, then recovery is easy. So.
Catherine Byers, the new Executive Director of Southwest Indiana Recovery and Empowerment, thank you for your time. Looking forward to working with you, and thank you for the work that you're doing in our community.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Here's Vanderburgh County Sheriff Noah Robinson with a few words about the program.
But a lot of folks are in this facility, and maybe it's the first time or the 10th time they've been arrested, and we've got them here, right? We've got them right here, and we can put our arms on them and talk to them. It's not like we're meeting them in the street where they can just walk away. We've got a captive audience, literally. So why not offer these services? Will they accept it? Will every person accept it? No. But I don't think you're going to find individuals more receptive to this offering. We're literally throwing them a lifeline at a moment when they need it the most.
Now we're joined by Erica Taylor, CEO of the Evansville YWCA. Erica, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So what is the YWCA?
The YWCA is a very long-established nonprofit organization here in Evansville. We were founded in 1911 by Albion Fellows Bacon to provide safe and affordable housing for women coming to the big city. Evansville at the time was a booming area in our region to work here. And so over time, our programs have evolved, but currently we have a domestic violence shelter, shelter for homeless women and children, our YES program, and then an after-school and mentoring program called Live Wires.
Wow. And I know that, we've been talking about these opioid settlement funds. Can you walk us through kind of what projects that the YWCA was able to use that funding for?
Sure. So we use the funds for our YES program. YES stands for YWCA Embracing Sobriety. This is a program that provides housing and advocacy and case management for homeless women escaping addiction. The typical program length is 8 to 12 months for a full experience. And during that time, we're going to provide supportive housing as well as case management to help navigate all of the barriers that women are facing as they're trying to come out of a life of addiction. So most of our women come to us completely broken. They've hit rock bottom. They've broken all connection with their family based on lack of trust and boundary breaking, things like that. They've lost custody of their children, maybe even parental rights. They've perhaps been in jail, all the things. And so when they come to us, they really need to be rebuilt whole again. And so we're going to start from the basics by providing all of the essentials like housing, a safe bed to sleep in at night. And then we're going to work from there to address their individual challenges. Everyone comes with their own set of challenges. The common denominator that most of our women share is a life of trauma. Many of them have had trauma in their past, as well as homelessness, addiction, of course. And when they come to us, even though many of them have different stories, they share that camaraderie and that fellowship of each trying to just achieve and maintain sobriety. And through that connection, that fellowship of women living together, it's just a really great support system for them in addition to the staff support they receive from our staff. That recipe for success is there to just really help them as they navigate through their addiction into employment and eventually permanent housing.
And these are a lot of the stories I think that are often untold, right? And you don't hear about. Could you help put into perspective for our viewers at home, like how many women are you helping on a daily basis, weekly basis, every year even perhaps? Like could you kind of peel back the layer and share perhaps
Sure.
how big of a, not problem it is, but maybe it is? So
the YES program, we have 29 beds in that program. And it is women and sometimes women and their children, depending on their situation. 88% of the women make incomes of $15,000 a year or less when they come to us, and 78% have zero income at all. So we're talking about very high poverty, no resources, no connections to reach out to help them get through this really challenging time in their life. So on average, we're serving around 85 women and children a year through that program. The beds are full almost every night. Typically, there's a waiting list for this program. Many of the women are referred through the Vanderburgh or Warwick County drug courts. We're a great partner to the Vanderburgh County Drug Court as an alternative to incarceration because we know that addiction is a very unique has its own unique set of challenges that may not be addressed while incarcerated. So we are taking women in their most vulnerable state, bringing them to the YWCA for this supportive living environment. It's more than housing, though. We like to stress that. It's more than housing. It truly is a program with lots of resources and opportunities for them to thrive.
So Erica, back to that funding, like what does it mean to you in your organization, what does it mean to you to kind of receive that funding to help with kind of that holistic approach that you've been talking about and not just the housing piece?
This funding has been a true blessing. I think you know the climate in our country right now. Funding sources are drying up left and right, and they have been over the years. It's not just recently. And so to have a set of dedicated funds specifically for this very important work that we do is just incredible because, as a leader of a nonprofit organization, we're always looking for resources and funders and things to make fit for what we're doing. This was an absolute perfect fit for what we're doing. The outcomes that we have, we're reuniting families, we are getting women sober, employed, becoming tax-paying citizens, really remaking a whole person again who came from rock bottom to this thriving human in our community. I can't think of a better way to use those funds, and it's just been a true blessing.
And I know you touched on some of this earlier, but And it's so great the work that you're doing, because it not only impacts, those women's lives, but the broader community. Could you just talk a little bit more about kind of the impact that you have seen in our community on opioid addiction? Like, has it increased? You've been with the YWCA for 15 years. Have you seen it get worse, get better? Like, in your experience, what have you seen, if you could provide some analysis on that?
Honestly, there is not a day that goes by in my time at the YWCA that I don't see the impact of opioid epidemic we see it every day, the women coming in and out of our building. And it's very sad, because I think that there's such a stigma in society about drug use and those people that use drugs. We've had women come to us from every possible scenario you can imagine, from having a very, fortunate background with all of the extracurriculars and the parental support you can imagine, to coming from the streets. And so what we find is that they all have that same goal, that same desire to achieve a life without the crutch of substances. And what I will say is that when people are placing the stigma on addiction, never underestimate how difficult it is to get over that addiction. You can't just say, stop drinking and get a job, stop using drugs and get a job. If you don't have that support system in place, you won't be successful. And so when you talk about a population of people who don't have a support system, having a place like the YWCA, where not only you have that staff support, but that fellowship of women living in community with you and you're sharing similar experiences, it really is so helpful and needed to kind of get out of that, bring yourself out of that, that life of addiction. And another just really important part of the story that I like to share is that we really are helping the community at large. It's not just about that individual woman, and I'll share why. When you think about children that are in foster care, children that are in homes where there's addiction and trauma, when you are making their mother whole again, making her feel supported so that she can get her life together and be sober, that mother is reuniting with her children. She's getting them out of foster care. She's employed. She has stable housing. Those children are going to thrive. She's trying to break that cycle. And so that impacts the entire community. And I think that's a huge part of the story of what we're doing.
And I know you highlighted, a lot of that in there, but if you could kind of leave our viewers at home with one, parting message about the great work that the YWCA does, or something that you hope that they really take away, what would you tell them?
Well, so many people say, when I give tours to donors or community partners, and after they do a tour, they say, wow, I've driven past this building 1,000,000 times, and I've always wondered what happens here. Yeah. What goes on in that big building at 2nd and Vine? And I would just say that we are truly empowering people to change their lives. We're providing a supportive foundation through our housing and programming and services to really help people discover their potential, and that they're more than generational poverty, they're more than generational abuse and domestic violence and addiction, that they can get through it because they are special, and we try to build confidence in that, behind those walls. We're building confidence and helping people become whole again. So I think that when it comes to the opioid funds in particular, to just know that these funds have been a blessing. They have helped empower countless lives this past year. We've had 88% of our women who finished the program go on to have permanent housing and employment. That's a huge number. And we're the only program of its kind in our region. The only one. Just think about that. If this program did not exist, where would those women go? Right. What would happen to those children?
That's really incredible to think about, and it's such important work, Erica, and we really appreciate you and everything that you're doing at the YWCA.
Thank you.
Erica Taylor, the CEO of the YWCA. Thanks again for making time.
Thanks for having me.
Here to talk about the opioid settlement funds that were granted to the Women's Hospital in Newburgh are Perinatal Center Program Manager Taylor Fauerbach and perinatal social worker Sarah Jenkins.
Thank you, Noah, and thanks to both of you for joining us today on the Newsmakers. Well, let's start with the Perinatal Center. Basically, what is it? What does it do, the Perinatal Center at the Women's Hospital?
So the Perinatal Center is really just a name for the outreach that we do with all of the different facilities. So in Indiana, they actually have designations for the level of care. So making sure people deliver at the right place at the right time with the right resources. There are 9 hospitals in Indiana who are designated a center. Okay. And so we are able to make sure that those facilities have access to higher level of care, transport, the appropriate developmental follow-up for infants, And then it's also looking at the education and training that staff have. And so as the Women's Hospital, we are affiliated with 7 different facilities in Indiana. But being where we are in Indiana, we also kind of intersect with Kentucky and Illinois. And
Right.
although they have different levels of care, we try to aim to serve those facilities as well. So anywhere from hospitals that don't have OB services to facilities that do, making sure that even if a patient shows up, we're able to give them support.
Yeah.
So we are able to deliver what's called level 3 maternal and neonatal care. And so that means that we have the different specialists for obstetrics and our infants to make sure that they're able to have their conditions managed.
Yeah. Now, Sarah, you're a social worker. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at the perinatal center?
Yeah, I do mostly inpatient social work, seeing any patients that have any needs, ranging from families that have babies that go to the NICU or families that maybe don't have a place to stay and need some assistance, as well as I help run the perinatal support program, and that's an outpatient program to where we see any moms that and maybe they have substance use disorder or they're in treatment, and we kind of help support them and educate them along the way.
Yeah. Now, I understand the opioid settlement funds, that national settlement has obviously been used for a lot of medical facilities. Can you tell us how the Women's Hospital used those funds?
Yeah, so when we learned about the opioid settlement funds, we felt that the perinatal support program really fit well with that, as well as our NICU developmental follow-up clinic. And so what we were trying to do with those funds is we were trying to kind of extend that reach to our patients that are in our Evansville community. And so a lot of times when we have patients who are referred to this program, there's some type of barrier, whether it's the barrier of the communication, so trying to get a hold of them from a referral standpoint, but even then transportation. We know that we've got transportation infrastructure issues in Evansville, and it's not easy even to just get across that simple underlying bridge over by I-69 just to get over to Women's. And so how could we try to deliver that program to our patients even when they are close in our community, just giving them as much support as we can?
Yes. And maybe, Sarah, you can weigh in a little on that as well. What kind of impact have you seen from these opioid settlement funds?
Yeah, so I really love the personal impact. I know a lot of people operate in numbers, but what means the most to me is when I call a mom almost a year postpartum to check in on them. I try to call them at least monthly to see how they're doing, see if they have any needs, because I want to make sure it's not just at time of birth, it's throughout the whole perinatal process and postpartum. So I call them and check on them, and I've had moms that are just like, you're still calling me after all this time, and just moms that have been in a crisis situation and then reach out to us because they know that we're there to support them throughout this journey. And it's really an amazing thing to see moms call back and ask for help with whatever it may be. That really makes the most impact.
And I think
opinion.
with this program too, what's so unique about perinatal support, it's that we know that patients who have some type of substance use issue that's going on, whether it's one that they've now found a road to recovery and they have that medication-assisted treatment, or it's someone who still hasn't made that determination for themselves, or maybe it's someone who has chronic pain issues and they need to take some kind of medication every day for their pain. But regardless, all of these different things can affect the baby. It can affect how they come out after delivery. And so when patients are coming to the hospital for delivery, it's not a really long time that you stay anymore. You know, it used to be days you could stay after you've had a baby, and now some people leave as fast as 24 hours. So we don't have a really big time window to teach you how to be a new parent, how to take care of yourself after you've delivered, how to recover, and then navigate other complicated issues such as a baby who's been exposed to some kind of substance during pregnancy. So this whole program really got designed when we started to think about, okay, how can we better serve these patients? Because patients are terrified. I mean, if you are admitting that there's a problem going on in your life, I mean, you're worried your baby's going to be taken away. And that is absolutely not the approach that we wanted to have with our patients. So setting up this type of consult where patients can come while they're still pregnant to learn from the team about what are things that are going to be going on with my baby, how can I go ahead and get prepared to support, but then have someone like Sarah, who's social work, to say, okay, what really happens with the, DCS, and what does that reporting look like, and am I in trouble? And I feel like people come in with their shoulders really tense and they're so nervous, but by the time you see them walk out, they're so much more relaxed, and it's the information that team delivers, which I think is amazing. And so the team of that consists of a neonatologist, so the provider who may take care of an infant if they ended up going into the NICU. It includes a nurse educator, so someone who can help kind of teach those strategies of how to kind of calm babies, what does it look like to pacify, as well as lactation, because we really want to have these patients be able to breastfeed baby if that's something that they desire. And then Sarah is there from the social work perspective as well.
Yeah. Now, we hear a lot about infant mortality, that it is quite high, higher than it should be. Can you tell us a little bit about how much of an issue is not only infant mortality, but mother mortality due to the addiction we see in our area? Perhaps, Sarah, would you be good to answer that one?
Yeah, well, we know based on our statistics in Indiana, one of the leading causes of maternal mortality is substance use. So it's definitely a big issue. And when you're pregnant, after you have a baby, postpartum, it's a very vulnerable time in someone's life. There's a lot of emotions and a lot of anxiety and different things. So they're at high risk for possible setback or something bad to happen. So we hope that this program helps those moms by, calling and checking in postpartum if they have an issue. Maybe they had a setback, or maybe they're facing some depression, that we can help direct them into the right way to keep them going.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side of it too is that while we see that risk for setback in that postpartum period, we also see that desire during pregnancy that people are willing to make a change. When they know that there's something new coming in their life and there's that baby, people are willing to have some change in positive behaviors to say, you know what, this is time for me to either quit smoking or to have a new coping mechanism so that way I can be with my baby. And so really the goal of this program is to help patients be set up for success with their family, because we want families together. That's the best place for them to be.
Sure. We talked a little bit about this before we began recording here. Can you tell us, how many patients is the perinatal center seeing? Roughly speaking, over the course of a year, perhaps.
So, we have roughly 3,200 deliveries in a year. And so when we look at, okay, how many patients have substance use disorder that we would be seeing, it could be as small as, a 5% in 1 month, but then there's another month where it might fluctuate and you see closer to 15 or even 20%. So I think it's kind of dependent on what's going on in the community and the climate. One of the challenges we saw in 2020 was during COVID. A lot of the medication-assisted treatment programs had some alterations in how they functioned, whether they stayed open. Some of them even had to close because of the operation, the budget operations for that. So we saw a lot of slide back in 2020 of what patients were experiencing and doing. So having Sarah come on our team then in 2021 to help really lead these consults and put more structure and framework around them has been really successful for us.
So you say roughly around 10% is what you're looking at over the course of a year. Well, Sarah, over to you. What are some of the other issues that you see new patients dealing with?
Well, I think, nowadays, just the insecurity of food. We have a lot of people that have trouble food insecurity or, just home insecurity even. We see that a lot of domestic violence issues as well. And that kind of all go together. And then, of course, depression, anxiety, the mental health is another thing that we see that coexists with a substance use disorder as well sometimes.
Sure. All right. Well, Taylor, what else would you like people to know about the perinatal center at the Women's Hospital? I'm sure we haven't talked about all of it.
Yeah, so one of the newer initiatives that we have is that partnership with the Ronald McDonald House Charities at the Ohio Valley. And so we have our Care Mobile program. So that's a mobile medical unit that actually goes out into the community, and it's trying to connect people with care. And so our focus is childbearing women and their babies. And so we know that there is struggle with trying to get to appointments. We know there's struggle even trying to get access or trying to, what does it look like to get into Medicaid right now and to get that coverage. And so we sought later entry into prenatal care, so meaning it's that second trimester, when ideally first trimester is the better opportunity to have that start. So that program goes out. We have several different sites. So on Wednesdays, for instance, we go partner with Young and Established. So the vehicle is parked there while people might be waiting in line for those food opportunities that they have. And so people can come onto the bus, they can get their blood pressure checked. If they're pregnant, we'll check the baby's heart rate. Really just be there for that extra extension of support. And so patients can feel that they have more information about their own health to feel empowered to make decisions. And then there's also a social worker on there as well. And so Kylie works really closely then with our inpatient team and even with Ascension, wherever patients decide to deliver. So that way those patients can get some of those needs addressed. So that way by the time we get them into the hospital and it's that shorter time frame, we're reinforcing what's going on rather than trying to start from scratch.
And as you say, an earlier start is best, that first trimester?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. First trimester is really the better start for our patients to getting into care, but it's complex when you've got to have the different insurance coverages or trying to find a provider then who's accepting patients at that moment in time. So the goal of that bus is to help connect patients with a provider, as well as help them connect with programs in the community that are going to help them, such as home visitation with the Pre-to-3 department program at Vanderburgh County Health Department. It could be that connection with going and trying to find resources for their family with Young and Established, or Potter's Wheel with family classes and so forth.
Sure, sure. Well, Sarah, what else would you like to add from your social worker position?
Yeah, I just would like to say life is tough sometimes, and I'm sure we've all been impacted by addiction in some shape or form, or know someone. It can happen to anyone, and more than anything, I just want moms to feel supported. There's a lot of stigma with it, and if we can just give them a little bit of support and make them feel like a human, but they really, sometimes they feel so judged, and we want to be there to fill that gap so they don't feel judged, so they just feel supported, because that's the most important thing.
All right, Sarah Jenkins, Taylor Fauerbach, thanks to both of you for joining us on Newsmakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to our guests for telling us about local projects that have benefited from the opioid settlement funds. Other organizations that received funds last year are the Evansville Rescue Mission, Vanderburgh County Mental Health Court, and the Evansville Police Department. The City of Evansville will soon announce the next round of recipients. I'm Noah Alatza, Chief Communications Officer for the University of Evansville. Thanks for watching WNIN Newsmakers.